moved up to the Boston area when I was 16 years old. At that time, Boston was the epicenter for music. I mean, bands like the Cars, Till Tuesday, bands like that were all kind of in part of the music scene in the Boston area, and I had a passion for playing guitar. So I came up here to study music and be a part of the Boston music scene, and that's what I did. I had moved in with a roommate, and this was in a place outside of Boston, and he had this big bookshelf of all these occult books. And he goes, you know, don't read any of those books. Just leave those alone. Those are, you know. Of course, the minute he left the apartment, I'm running to the bookshelf, and seen all these books by McGregor Mathers and Aleister Crowley, and you pick them up and you have no idea what you're looking at. I did see the Greater Key of Solomon, and of course everybody knows about the Greater Key of Solomon. I'm looking through that. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm intrigued. But there was one book on the shelf that did it for me. It was called The Magicians of the Golden Dawn by L.A. Cowell. And I picked that book up and I started reading it, and I just felt, I want to be a magician of the Golden Dawn. And I was just so intrigued by the Golden Dawn, and that started my journey. And then I kind of became part of the Salem witchcraft scene for a while. I mean, you knew Laurie Cabot was here, and there was witches in Salem somewhere, And you came looking for magic, and that was part of what I was doing. But I was lucky enough to come across some really legitimate practitioners here as well. And then Maria, my partner, her background, I mean, she grew up in Panama. And a big part of the culture in Panama was Santeria. Maria decided she wanted to go back to her roots. She got really fascinated in finding out whether that was really a path that was meant for her. So it was Maria who started me on the kind of the Afro-Caribbean journey, and we did that together, and we both got initiated into Santeria. And I had come back to Salem. I was living in Florida for a while, and I came back to Salem. And I was managing a friend of mine's shop. I was running a friend of mine's shop who was very ill at the time, and it was a witchcraft shop. It was New Aeon, actually, a very, very famous shop and part of the Salem scene. And Maria walks in, and we became really dear friends, became really close. And we both were talking about the lack of magical education, period. Now, she is a college professor. She's an academic, brilliant woman. And we just, we should start a little school, just something where we can teach classes and give people some legitimate information. And I remember one day she calls me and goes, Dave, I was driving down Bridge Street and I saw this little teeny place. And it was teeny, it was practically a closet. And she says, the rent's really cheap, I think we can afford it. And we didn't have any money. I mean, we started off with nothing. So I says, okay, let's do it. So we started off with little classes, little things that her and I would teach. But because both of us had been around the occult scene for so many years, we had made a lot of friends. And we started asking our friends to do classes for us. Now, right around that same time, Damien Eccles had moved into Salem. He had just gotten out of prison. And Damien became a friend of mine. He started because he was very interested in Golden Dawn magic, and he had met somebody that he could talk, ceremonial magic with. And he wanted to kind of get out there again. So Damien did some classes for us. I had some other local friends, like Christopher Penzak was a good friend of mine. Christopher came in, did some classes for me. Next thing I know, we're starting to get all these big name occultists coming and doing classes at our little teeny closet. And they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger because the content of the material was so good. I was actually getting pretty serious occultists to come. And then there was another store right next to ours. It was a skateboard shop, and they moved out. And then, of course, Maria says, hey, we should move there. It's a bigger space. And that's where we really started getting bigger. I mean, the classes got bigger. Our reputation got bigger. Laurie Cabot would come do classes for me on a regular basis. I even had Chick and Tabitha Cicero of the Golden Dawn come down up and do classes for us. It just grew and grew and grew. And as it grew, it's funny, the little closet, all we had was candles that we made. All we had money for. Maria had gotten $1,000 for some books that she sold, and she bought a little bookcase. We bought some books, and we were so excited. We had this little bookcase with some books in it. We had little homemade candles that we had, and that was what we had. And we grew from there to this. So finally, we separated the two. We decided we're gonna have the learning center where we're gonna do classes and courses, and then this is our retail space, obviously. on Essex Street. A lot of the things in the store are either made by Maria and I. Maria's the really good artist. I got to give her the credit on that one. Maria's just so amazing. She's a great painter. She's a great sculptor. But that being said, a lot of the artwork in the store is our creation. Statuary we have designed, like we'll have an idea for a statue, and Maria will go to a sculptor and have it made. So yeah, this store is very unique. You're gonna come in here and you're gonna find stuff you'll never see in other place. I've always been a book collector, and I was lucky enough in the 90s. Donald Weiser became a really close friend of mine, and I used to go visit Donald, and he turned me on to the passion of book collecting. Of course, it's Donald Weiser, right? The largest antiquarian bookstore, occult bookstore in the world. And yeah, Donald's the one that turned me on to it. He always showed me good books. He goes, David, this is a book you should buy. Or he'd go to big book fairs. He'd go to the big book fairs in Europe, and then he'd call me up and say, Dave, I got something for you. And it was so sweet of him to do. And he was a big influence on me. So yeah, I used to go up there, and sometimes I would stay at Donald's house for the weekend and go through his collection. And over the years, I've put together a pretty serious antiquarian book collection. So it's here in the store. They're for sale. If somebody comes in and sees something they really want, that case is full of amazing books, things you'll never see. But I was really grateful for those years with Donald, and I think that's kind of reflecting that or paying homage to him here in the store. That was an idea of a friend of mine. He's a passionate musician, and Josh came in and had this idea that it would just be so cool if we could merge. He knows my passion for music too. Can we merge music and every single of those albums in that collection are all occult themed, so that it has some kind of influence in the occult world. And yeah, so that was something that was just really cool. It was put together, and people come in, they just get blown away when they see what we have in that collection. Obviously, my legacy is going to be intertwined with Maria. I mean, we couldn't have done any of this without each other. I mean, it was a perfect storm. I think her and I coming together. But that being said, I want the store to be someplace when people come to Salem and they're looking for magic, they actually find a real working magic store. But my other part of my legacy is obviously being a teacher. I want to be remembered. I tell all my students, just remember that David, really did try to teach you and set you on the right path. The final legacy will be, like I said before, the Golden Dawn. When I'm dead and gone, I might want people to say, yep, David was a magician of the Golden Dawn. So reading that book all those years ago and saying, boy, I want to be a Golden Dawn magician. I want to be remembered as a magician of the Golden Dawn.